Welcome to the Schmoeville podcast, that podcast that's all about celebrating Schmoes Know. My name is Ryan Snelling, and I'm joined by
Paul Wolfe here in really, really hot northeastern Ohio.
Yeah, it's hot here too. I'm a state down, so
Yeah.
It's going to be a little bit hotter usually where I'm at. Yeah, and I have to record in my room, and I've got to close the windows. I got to turn off all the fans to get rid of all that excess noise. So it might get pretty moist in here, Paul. I'm not gonna lie.
All right then.
What's been going on with you this week?
You know what? If you guys have been following what I've been doing this week from previous posts and podcasts, I've been on several interviews for a teaching position, and went on I went on 3 since last Saturday, and one has hooked. I have a second interview for actually my alma mater, which is actually cool. My high school alma mater, that district. We're gonna have a second interview next week, and I've just basically been prepping for that.
Schmoeville fans have done a great job supporting Paul and giving him shout outs and stuff online. One huge reason why you want Paul to get one of these jobs is so he'll be able to afford a brand new microphone for this podcast. But good luck to you, Paul, as always. But hey, we got somebody else in here, man. Okay? It can't all be about us. Sometimes we got to talk about these schmoes, okay? We've got Robert Butler III in here. What's up, buddy?
Hey, how you guys doing? How you doing, Schmoeville? I'm glad to be on this podcast. This is actually, really amazing. I had this opportunity to come on here, speak with you guys.
I think you're just right away, you're the nicest guy ever. Because when I first messaged you to be on the show, I mean, the second you appeared on the Schmoes Know show, we were like, hey, we've got to get him on here. And from the get-go, you were, thanking me, and you were just being so sweet. Thank you for letting me on the podcast. And I was just, dude, you're on the Schmoes Know show. We're the Schmoeville podcast on the SK Podcast Network, but you're a part of this Schmoes Know show. We should be thanking you for joining us, but you're a very nice guy. But we're totally psyched to have you here, right?
Well, look, I mean, I've been part of Schmoeville for I don't know how long. Back when they're still in Phase 4, so Phase 4 was kind of their dark ages kind of, but. I've been around, and I've been watching the Schmoes. Then the Facebook group came up, and now you guys have a podcast, and it's like, wow, I'm here, and just the fact that you guys invited me to be on the show is really awesome.
See, like I said, Paul, he's a super nice guy, isn't he?
Yes, he is, absolutely.
Well, let me hear a little bit more about your background then, because I know you did a Q&A on the Schmoeville Facebook group, and that was awesome. But that was a few weeks ago. We're not very familiar. I mean, hell, I wasn't even that familiar with Ace, so there's no way I'm going to be familiar with you. So yeah, how did this all come about? How did you get your little position here at Schmoes?
Well, it's kind of a long story. So back in 2014, I had messaged Christian Harloff on Facebook, and I was like, because I saw that he was uploading the archive podcast on YouTube and everything. So, but they were just the audio versions. And I was like, Christian, why don't we start putting up the video versions? I would enjoy it, me personally as a fan. I think the fans will enjoy it as well. And then he was like, well, shit, man, that's a lot of work. And I was like, no, don't worry about it. I'll do it. And then and he was like, really? How are you going to do that? And, I explained to him the process. And so then I started doing that for the Schmoes back in 2014. It was during the summer, and then I continued all the way until 2015. And then so we uploaded starting from episode 65, and then going all the way into the end of Phase 3, because all of the Phase 4 stuff and Phase 5 stuff was already on YouTube. And so I already had a repertoire with the Schmoes. They already knew who, in terms of what my work can do, what I can do, and things like that. So then when the opportunity, I believe it was late 2015, that they posted on Facebook that they're looking for a new intern. So I said, okay, I'm gonna message Christian, tell him I'm totally down. At the time they're in Encinitas. I was in Northridge. So it's literally like a few like 15, 20 minutes away. So I messaged him. I said, because I moved out to Northridge for college. So I told him, I said, I'm available. I'm a little close to you, so it makes things a little easier. This and that. Sent in my resume, and everything. The only things is that they ended, we're gonna set something up. Things that end up working out just timing wise, and they also met Jake, who was an incredible guy. So they end up going with Jake. Unfortunately, however, Jake got sick, and so they needed to look for and had to move back home. So they needed to look for somebody else. And since they already knew me, they already knew my resume. They already knew how committed I am to the Schmoeville community, and they're really just looking for like a long-term fan because they really want to connect with the fans a lot more.
Right.
So, they brought me on. They brought me in for an interview. Copston messaged me, asked if I was available for an interview. I said yes, and then literally like 3 days later, they said I was on. So that's kind of that story.
That's awesome, man. And you can ask Paul or Copster. Every week when I'm uploading our YouTube video, I forget to add the stupid collider bumper at the very beginning. I don't know how many times I've uploaded the entire podcast without including that bumper and have to do it all over again. So I can't imagine handling the stress of the entire Schmoes Know library and going through that process and being responsible for all that. So that's nuts. I know to be an intern, you have to be available on Thursday evenings. But for the rest of the week, how much are you doing for the Schmoes?
Throughout the rest of the week, I'm really doing the SK podcast stuff, re-uploading the Schmoes Plus videos. And by the way, if you guys aren't looking at those, you guys should really check those out. I think those are really fun. And I'm also on their Instagram, at times, most of the time, helping out with their Instagram. And beyond that, it's really just me, looking at the Schmoeville fan community, looking at Facebook, reading comments. I'm grabbing comments that I think are interesting and funny. That's what really me, Copster, and Ace do when you see the comments come up during the live show, where we find some of the more interesting or funnies or nice ones or negative ones in some cases. And we try and highlight those. And whatever Christian Harloff or Mark Ellis or anybody emails me to do something, I'll do it, as quickly as possible.
So we talk probably, and Paul can correct me if I'm wrong, but Paul, don't we usually talk more about Christian than we do Mark? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, because Mark's always out doing his comedy stuff, and he's merely Mark Ellis, as he says on his little commercials that he does for the breaks. So he doesn't really have an official role except for office co-host, of course, and of course the he doesn't. You can easily see he's not. I mean, he's very humbled with that. He doesn't actually give himself a title, but he seems to be the one that's always gone more. And so yeah, we do talk about Christian more than Mark.
So I where I'm going with this is that you mentioned you might get an email from Christian or Mark, but how much is Mark doing, honestly? Or is he kind of behind the scenes with you all, or does he do a lot that we don't know about?
Besides messing up his desk area.
Well, from what I've seen in the past, 5 or 6, I think it's been 5 weeks that I've been there. It's really just Christian and Mark kind of consult each other whenever they need something. So it's not like it might be Christian who like implements something, but they're really a team. It's really like a discussion that would kind of happen between those two. And then Mark, I can't really say that I've been around long enough to like specify positions, but I feel like Christian, kind of puts together the team and kind of gives like a kind of rough general thing, and Mark comes in and kind of helps flushes everything out, and then the whole team comes in and kind of makes everything work to an extent. And so I feel like there's a lot of planning and organization and all of that kind of business that happens with the Schmoes, at least.
Yeah, I'm more so just giving Mark a hard time. I know there's plenty that he's involved in. I remember seeing like a Facebook Live Q&A that Christian was running, and someone asked the question whether basically all the content that they were putting up on the Schmoes Know podcast channel, like I remember seeing, was it Copster and Makuga's fight scenes and all that kind of stuff that was being added. Someone asked the question, is that content going to be implemented in the Schmoes Know show? Basically, the fan wanted it to be on there. And Christian went straight to Mark to ask him what he thought about it. And they had like their own like behind the scenes discussion about it, and they were very transparent. And Mark was like, yeah, but the Schmoes Know channel is us. Like, bonus content will be on a bonus content YouTube channel. And like it was weird because Ellis wasn't being like funny. He wasn't being hateful by any means. It was just he was being diplomatic and very businesslike, and it was very interesting to see him be that way. Because we don't get that. Like you said, Paul, in the commercials that they do for Collider Movie Talk, he just simply says he's Mark Ellis. So, yeah, I was just busting his balls. I know Mark does plenty, and obviously he created this. He's why we're here.
They're a total team, and they're great guys. That's one of the interesting thing about the Schmoes, man, is like those two are like the most, or the whole crew really are like literally the most transparent people in the world. The way they are on camera is like the exact same way they are off camera. I remember the first time walking into like the Collider offices, I was like, whoa, this is I watch them on YouTube every day, and it's just like, wow, I'm here. And I remember the first day was crazy because there was Wendy Lee had, because they usually keep the door locked, so Wendy Lee had let me in. I'm like, this is Wendy Lee. And then Dennis was hanging out around there, and then I was kind of introducing, Cops was kind of giving me like a tour to kind of show me around and kind of specify what I should do during the show, after the show, things like that. And then I remember there were just people who were running in and out the office. I saw John Schnapp to the corner of my eye. I was like, this is crazy, John Schnapp. I have your Blu-ray sitting on my Blu-ray collection. And then it's just like, and there are some people who I was able to muster up the courage to like introduce myself to. And then, obviously Christian and Mark, I had to say something to them eventually. Because I'm their intern, right. But I remember one specific example. It was like there's like a little desk where Cody does all his engineering, and the rest of the B team, or the Ranger crew, I think now, where we kind of hang out and kind of work on our stuff. And then I remember sitting over there and then seeing like John Campia walk in and grab like a coat or something. And I'm like, oh man.
Because he's kind of like the godfather of all that, right?
Yeah. I'm just like, I kind of just froze up right there, and it was kind of hectic. And then, I don't know, that happened on a couple of occasions. And then, but, that was also the same night that they had the lovely Miss Ashley Mova and Sinead DeFries come into the studio as well. That was my first day there, so, and I got to meet them, and I eventually walked up to Dennis Zhang and kind of said something, and it was a really cool experience.
So it does definitely seem like Collider, they're all under the same umbrella. Is there seems to be a lot, because I know Mark Riley, we're talking this week as well to see if we can get him on, but he seems to be doing a lot of the Collider movie talk. It seems he does the show notes. It seems like a lot of people kind of work both, like across, like they kind of do the jobs of both shows. Do you see a lot of overlap when you see that? Is there like people that have multiple responsibilities when you walk around there?
Well, yeah, totally. Well, now Copster, Cody is the is the engineer for all of the. I don't know if all of the, but he's an engineer for Collider now, and Josh McCouga is there pretty much every day. I mean, I can only speak to who I know on Thursdays, but just based on talking to them, Josh McCouga is usually there almost every day. Mark Riley is there every day. Cody is there pretty much every day. Christian and Mark, obviously. And so you do see a lot of, you do see a lot more, and Sinead is part of the crew now. So Sinead, comes in through Collider and Schmoes. So there's kind of a lot of crossover. Really, it's really kind of a beautiful thing, the collaboration that happens between these two organizations.
So now that you're kind of incorporated with everybody, you kind of gotten a couple weeks under your belt and kind of gotten over the whole fanboying part of it. Who do you now kind of, is there anybody like non-work stuff? Like if you do stuff like go out and do something, see a movie, do non-work stuff, is there somebody that you hang out with more than anyone else does?
Paul wants to know if you have friends, basically.
Well, I don't really have friends yet. But I will. No, it's not even. I mean, I live pretty far. I just moved back home to my place in Compton. So I'm brand new to the show. But I mean, I honestly do think we're all like friends on the show and whatnot. And even last night after the show, JT, asked if I wanted to see Apocalypse with him. I couldn't. I had to do some other things and go home. But no, I mean, everybody's super kind though, and everybody, and if there's something that somebody's doing, like if for example, Mark Riley's having a birthday party or Brent Sheridan is having like an event, they'll totally invite me. I probably won't be able to go because, like I said, I live all the way in Compton. So.
You and Ace have both had your moments to fanboy out about the first times that you met these guys. I want to know the weirdest person to meet. Who's the strangest person to be around in the office? Like someone who is not anything like what you expected.
Not anything like I expected. Well, Tom, Bobby Finstock, as people refer to him, he's a character. He's such a cool guy, man. Like he is so like he'll come into the office, say, I just shot a Drake video, and he'll go on and give us these like really cool stories, and he'll give me some really awesome advice. Even like last night, we're all hanging out at Barney's after. Barney's, which is like a bar across the street. We're all hanging out after, and then he was just spitting stories and everything like that. And JT is a really cool guy as well, because we kind of, before I was an intern, we were friends on Facebook, and we kind of interacted a lot through there, just having fun with each other. He knew I was from Compton, and I knew him from the show, obviously. So when the first day I was there, he walks up to me and is like, hey, are you new here? I'm like, yeah, my name's Robert. And he was like, cool, man. Do I know you from somewhere? It's like, probably through Facebook. What's your last name? I was like, Butler III. And he's like, you're RB3? Da, da, da. So, because,
I was just curious, but I was hoping to hear like a weird story. Like I was hoping that you were gonna. I was hoping that you were gonna say John Schnepp was like a freak in real life.
Oh, he probably is. Oh well. Never mind. But I do remember seeing John Schnepp for the first time, and then not for the first time, but for like the second or third time I saw him. I walked into the office, and then I had to talk to Christian about something, and then we're in the main Collider offices, and him and Robert Meyer Brunette and Chris Gore were like talking about something, and then I'm talking to Christian, but when you have those moments where you just glance to the corner of your eye and you see somebody looking at you. Yeah. John Schnepp was just like kind of looking at me, and I kind of look at him, and then he does like the coolest like nod head back, and then I kind of do the same thing to him, and then we just like break eye contact. Not anything too weird. So
we'll keep a journal, because next time you come on, I want weird stories.
All right. I will keep my ear open, and I will make sure I write down everything weird that I hear from these guys.
Paul, are you ready to get into the Schmoedown from last week?
Yes, sir.
All right. It was, who was it? Oh, yeah, Scott Mance and Dan Murrell. Yes. So we both predicted Merle, right?
That's correct.
And, like always, we're correct. We're right. How did you feel about the Schmoedown, Paul?
It was good. It was exactly what I thought it was going to be, and just again entranced with everybody's knowledge and everybody just going through the motions, doing what they need to do, doing what they do best, and putting on a good show. I mean, it was entertaining as always.
For sure. I mean, I just basically repeat those sentiments. By the way, it was a nice touch to have John Bailey and AD Signor on the sidelines staring Scott Mance down. What a perfect moment. RB3, is that the show that – did John Campea host that, or was that the week before?
I think that was the week before. I think that was the week that Christian and Mark, the team champion.
Okay, that's right. So, well, my question is, I think there was a blooper in the edit that eventually made it to YouTube. John might have been joking, so you can clarify. But Campea, it cut to him, and I think he made a joke and messed up or flubbed or whatever, and then he said pause for edit, and then counted down, and he was looking off camera.
I remember that.
So that made it into the show. So my question to you is, how long is an actual taping of a Schmoedown? Because obviously they're taped beforehand. There's some producing involved. How long is an actual Schmoedown event? How often are these guys messing up their hosting duties, all that good stuff?
Well, I haven't been to a taping of the Schmoedown live yet.
Oh, damn.
But I know they like Christian will offer for me to if I want to come in and watch, but I just haven't had the opportunity. Like again,
so they taped them an entire week beforehand. Is that what you're saying?
I can't say how long they taped them beforehand.
You're not allowed to say? Is that what you? Okay.
Well, I don't know if I'm allowed, but I just don't. I feel like I don't know.
Yeah. So, well, here, you know what? Going off of that, I was again trying to get JTE on the show a while ago too, and I asked that same type of question. I'm like, is it? Because I remember we brought that up in one of the podcasts. How is it? Are they putting on an act? Do they, kind of like wrestling tapes shows, and then they play them, a couple weeks, a couple days down the road, and is it? It's obviously not live, but how long is it? How long prior did they record it? And I asked that to JT, and I'm like, is this just like movie magic where it's it's recorded and you guys already know who won? You just put on an act. You're not. It's like you've got some contract you're not allowed to say anything about. Keep it silent. And he goes, yep. He like gave me the wink emoji. Like, yep, movie magic. So they obviously know who wins prior to that. And there was actually somebody on the Facebook Schmoes Know comments that they supposedly heard Christian give away the winner of Finstock and Wolfe. I didn't hear it, so there was only one comment out of the thousands of comments that I saw, but I definitely know that it is earlier in the week, just not exactly know how long prior to the actual posting of the actual fight.
Well, I don't want to spoil the surprise. I mean, that's kind of why I don't know if they tell me, but there's definitely like a good element of surprise for that we want to keep for the fans, and that we kind of want to ensure that even like the host are still a little unsure about. So, but no, it's definitely a process, and they definitely have, a full process, and it's definitely like a big schedule and lineup that they usually have set up.
Speaking of that, there's all those graphics and all that, the theme music and everything. Like, do you know exactly like who do we give credit for all of those graphics and all of that music? Do you know who does those specifically? Because those are amazing. They do a really good job with that.
I think they were using the music back in Phase 5. I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly where they got the music from. Graphics wise, it's definitely. I think it's probably somebody at Collider. If I'm not mistaken, it might be Ray or Adam or Jonathan or one of those guys. But I'm not specifically sure who does the graphics and the animation. But they do look really good. I mean. It looks like real sharp and everything. So,
do you have thoughts on Merle Mance from last week?
Merle, oh man, that was a battle, wasn't it? Well,
awesome.
yeah, I mean, uh, I've had the opportunity to meet Scott Mance personally outside of Schmoes before I was working at Schmoes, just in my other areas of work, and he was this was right before uh, him and Roca went down,
Uh-huh.
and I just remember him just being like the coolest guy. It was literally, I was working a premiere for a movie, and then at a movie theater, and then literally the theater adjacent, they were doing a Q&A, and Scott Mance was hosting, and it was like the Thursday before at like midnight or close to 1 o'clock, and I see Scott Mance. I'm like, Scott Mance, I'm a big fan. Da, da, da. And I was like, I watch you on Access Hollywood, Schmoes. I used to watch Profiles, and then he was like, the Schmoedown is tomorrow, and then like that was kind of his immediate plug. So no, he's such a nice guy, but he's really knowledgeable as well. But Dan Murrow, man, that guy's a beast. So with him, it's just, what Dan Murrow, people just, you understand with him on movie fights on Screen Junkies, he's the fact checker, right? So like he's the one who actually looks up all of the movie facts and all of the trivia. He's reading tons of that on a daily basis. So his movie knowledge is probably like infinite after going a year on that show, fact checking.
Absolutely.
So, it's kind of hard for anybody to really like kind of come in his way. But you never know who could dethrone the champs.
So today we got Finstock and Clarke Wolfe, and this is a huge deal, and we're going to talk more about last night's Schmoes Know show, obviously, because there's a ton of drama between those people. But going into the match today, Paul, was it last week when I brought up my theory that, or it might have been the week before, where I kind of think that these guys accidentally slip and reveal who's gonna win. Like maybe they don't know it, like subconsciously they might give something away. But I mean, these guys have the winners in their heads when they're like promoting the week of. So I feel like there's like Freudian slips, and I'm gonna try to guess the winner of today's match based on this theory. And Clarke Wolfe was on Movie Talk yesterday, I believe. And she got really serious when Christian asked her about what she thought about the Schmoedown tomorrow. And she was talking about how nervous she was. Like how she wasn't going to – and, of course, I mean, they always kind of say it every day. You shouldn't count Finstock out. But she was talking about how nervous she was. I'm thinking that the way she said it and what she said hints at the fact that she might lose this thing. And I know that Clarke Wolfe is the favorite. She obviously guessed – I think she only missed one going up against Makuga. But I'm going to test my theory and just guess, go against the grain, and say that Finstock beats Clarke Wolfe. Paul, is there any way that that's happening today?
Well, any given Sunday, that saying. So I would, you see, I can't go against somebody with the last name of Wolf. So that's got to be, that's got to be one of them. We all counted Finstock out against Schnepp, and he really kind of not wiped the floor with him, but beat him. And everybody, of course, shocked. Sure. With Clarke, she did only miss that one question in the first matchup, and she has talked about in the past how nervous she gets, and that's kind of across the board what we hear from a lot of people. Even Ace last week said, it's a different beast, and so, it's the test anxiety thing I keep talking about. You might know your stuff, but as soon as you get into that situation, it's that performance that you gotta perform, and I think honestly, Clarke's still gonna take it. I really do, because again, we know how much of an act sometimes they put on. They know prior of who wins, and I really do think they do a really good job with staying the course and not revealing and acting a certain way to hide it. So I do still think Clarke's going to take it.
I know it's hard to hear that I'm going with Finstock on this, but RB3, what do you think? Who do you got going into this?
look at Finstock is a very knowledgeable guy. He is, I mean, he is a wealth of of knowledge that people like kind of undermine him for. Uh, I mean, he may not know. There are a lot of areas where he's not necessarily proficient in, but I mean, man, that guy. I mean, he knows movies. He's been around. But Clarke Wolfe, I mean, she went to film school. She studies. She hosts, a number of movie shows and everything like that. So it's just, you gotta. I mean, it is tough. It's tough. I mean,
Absolutely.
I will say this. This airs the day. This usually airs the day after, right?
This will come out later today. Our podcast usually will be up after the Schmoedown has already aired. But
Okay. Well, I'll say this for fans who have watched the Schmoedown already, you will know that is a very, very close battle. So, and it is almost like a title match, kind of like you would almost think those two are fighting over JT's love in this. And because man, I'm telling you, it is about. But no, it's definitely a fun match, and I think everybody's gonna enjoy it. But there are both. I mean, honestly, as a prediction wise, they're both great competitors. You can't. I mean, people count out Finstock, but he is a solid. You saw the way he did with John Schnepp. You see what he does with JT on the team. They went all the way to the championship, obviously. So, and everything like that. So they are both very, very, very strong competitors. But it's literally 50% talent, 50% luck, right? So it depends if you land on the right categories. If Clarke Wolfe gets horror movies, it's over. If Tom gets, Pauly Shore movies, it's over. So
I think you're dancing around the question. You're afraid to answer because you actually know the result. I think you're scared to make the prediction because if you say that you think Finstock wins this, I think you will prove my theory correct.
I'm almost waiting for you to go, tell the truth! Tell the truth!
Tell the truth!
Tell the truth!
It's fine if you're dancing around it. I understand you don't want to hint either way because you know the results, obviously.
You can't handle the truth.
So going into this, we got one for Finstock, we got one for Clarke, and RB3 is just.
He's abstained from the guess. Yes, he is not. He's not answering. And you know what? Hey, that's all right. You're protecting your job. I understand.
Okay, Paul. So let's get into last night's Schmoes Know show. It was a big one. It was a huge one. But what do you got for me? What happened before we get to the big decision?
Well, honestly, I mean, because of the topic of the X-Men apocalypse, that was kind of touched upon. I really, outside of the decision, I want to give props to Cobster, Mr. Pissed Off Cobster.
Amazing.
Made an appearance, and it almost felt like I wrote in my notes dumpster fire because Mark had a rant about the transition to Brett on how he did a perfect transition and he did something weird and then it kind of got flipped. Then there was a mention of there's no whiteboard. Miri, they were calling her like her face was red. There was no fuel for fit pictures. And then Cobster came out and completely just even brought Sasha out from the back from hearing what Cobster was saying. Oh my God, wow, that touched a nerve because I have a feeling Cobster is very proud of what he does. And when people confront him with things that didn't go right, you saw Mr. Cobb flippity flop. So, what did you guys think? I mean, Robert, were you there at that time? Where were you, and how did you react? And Snelling, what about you? What happened there?
I was behind the desk, watching the chat, monitoring it, watching the show as well, and
you weren't getting Ellis beer or anything at the time.
No, not at the time, no. But no, I saw. You could see the face of Copster just is getting red and intensifying. And then I knew it was over as soon as he took off his glasses, slapped them on the table. He was like, "I'm going in." And he walked up, and I knew at that moment what it was going to be coming. It was, I feel like these, it wasn't just of last night's show. It was just a lot of frustrations that he might have had throughout his time recently. And he doesn't get mad or anything. He's not like he's a very, very nice guy. He's probably the coolest guys I've ever met. But there's always little things that could itch a person. And I feel like over the course of I think he's been there for like 3 years. I feel like over the course of like 3 years, it just slowly starts to itch at him, and it just built up to that point. So, and he touched on a lot of things that I've experienced, as I've been on the show, in terms of, the 6:30 meetings being at 6:50 and trying to get everybody to sit down 2 minutes before the show starts. And even for me, it's like, "Hey guys, can we get a picture for Instagram?" It takes like 2-3 minutes just to get everybody to get the camera. But no, it's definitely he had a lot going into that and everything. But it was a very, very funny moment in the show.
Yeah, definitely for Copster, in his case, it's definitely serenity now, insanity later. And I hope that Christian eggs him on more. I'd love for Pissed Off Copster to make more appearances. Sorry, Copster. I gotta be in favor of pissing you off on the show. And last night was definitely, it felt like a skeleton crew. Like, I feel like we didn't see that many of you guys on there. I think Ace made an appearance, but like Sasha was out, Miri didn't ever come on. It just felt like it was kind of bare bones. The Wangers table, I think, there was only 2 at a time at the table. So yeah, I mean, it was a big show. Obviously, we knew that the decision was coming. Of course, they discussed Apocalypse first. A few other things that were amazing. It was very funny and loose again, like last week. And it's funny because we talked about Pissed Off Copster, the Fuel for Fit pictures not working, all that stuff. To me, it's not a big deal because I feel like I don't mean this in a bad way. I feel like every show kind of has those problems, technical problems, whatever. I'm used to it. I don't think it takes anything away from the show at all. I thought the biggest shocking moment was Ellis's AIDS joke. I thought that was gonna be the moment that derailed the entire show. I was shocked, but then again, it also provided a really great moment. But yeah, I mean, it was mostly pretty loose. Like, I love the mention of the Makuga, the Change.org petition. And if I had known that existed, I probably would have signed it because I thought it was hilarious. Not because I actually believe in the cause, but I would love to show him that I signed it and be like, yeah, this is funny. But yeah, I guess Christian got to it first because, yeah, Josh mentioned Christian's shit-eating grin, and I mentioned that last week when he was calling JTE out. One last funny moment before we go into the decision. I thought Makuga gave the worst blue steel I have ever seen in my life. Like, Ellis actually gave an effort. He gave the duck face and moved his eyebrows. Makuga literally just shifted his body and stared at the camera. It was the worst blue steel I have ever seen.
I don't know if it was your accent or if it's just how you said it, but Jen, Snelling just said Moo Kuga. So I have a feeling if you want to do a meme on that one, I don't know, that was just, it struck me funny. Keep going, sorry.
Did I really say it like that?
You said Moo Kuga, Moocuga, Moo Kuga.
Maybe I was looking at I was probably looking at my Film Beef logo. And I had
that was probably it. But that struck me as funny. I'm like, Jen Kemp, get on it, get that meme going. Moo Kuga.
Anyway, let's get into why we are here. This episode might be one of the biggest episodes in Phase 6 history. We're going to be talking about it years down the road here. So I want to know from you, RB3, what's been in the atmosphere over there in the past week since the last show? Sort of give me a behind the scenes what's been going on leading up to the decision.
No, the hype is definitely, it was the energy in the offices were were really ecstatic and everything. I mean, everybody kind of says, everything's scripted. Da, da, da. No, I honestly had no idea what was happening until like maybe like 20, 30 minutes before. And then even like a lot of that stuff was like still surprises, like the Jeff Snyder twist and the Makuga thing. I was kind of clued in on, right before, but there's a lot of things that that literally nobody had any idea of what was happening until right before. So I mean, kind of everybody in the room, the energy was kind of unbelievable. As Christian said off the top of the show, like that's what was kind of on everybody's minds, and that was definitely the kind of highbrow energy that was happening in the office. It was a certain electricity. When for example, if you're going in to see like a movie like Civil War and you feel like the heat in the theater, like right before the show starts. Yeah, that was kind of what was happening during yesterday's show.
Now, you just said that a lot of things that happened during that segment was surprising. Now, two of the surprises that came out of the curtain were on the show earlier. How did they keep that secret? And like, because they had to have gone off, changed, and then like gone around to the curtain area. How did they do that without anyone knowing, or did some people know that that were behind the scenes?
And not even that. There's someone that planned all of the music, like the intros were planned. So can you speak to that, RB3?
There was we had a whole playlist set up for the music, and what happened was we had the arrangements sent into a certain order, and I was managing the music, as the show was happening. So then, Christian would look over to me and kind of give me a visual cue of when to start what music, and then I'll hit the play button, and then the person who was coming out would come out, and there were other rooms in the offices for people to change, so people kind of changed during the break. That's kind of why we had an extended 6-minute break between the X-Men Apocalypse preview and the decision, was so that we can move cameras, get speakers set up, get the mic set up, and things like that. Obviously we're clued into it, like I said, 20, 30 minutes before the show actually started live, just so we have the music and everything set up already. And then we had that break time to set up the intros and everything like that.
So let's talk about the actual decision itself, Paul. How were you feeling when all this unfolded?
I kind of got a sense of how it was going to go earlier in the week when I got some text messages from Christian saying, as a wrestling fan, you will probably chant "holy shit" at the screen. And so when I heard that, I knew something was going to happen. And Mark put it right. He is Vince McMahon. He is the Vince McMahon of this show. He put this whole thing together, and I was actually surprised who Clarke chose, but I love the choice.
Well, it makes total sense now.
It does.
It's not something I could have called, you're right, but as I saw it unfold, I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah. Absolutely, and when the music hit, then with the first there, obviously the music gave that away, but when it hit, that's when the holy shit moment happened.
Absolutely.
And he came out there, and it was amazing, and I even immediately tweeted after the show to Mark about a team name, the Wolves of Steel. That'd be kind of a cool little hook there. So I thought that was kind of combine them together. But I think that's a pretty formidable team right there.
For sure. Is there a chance, and I want both of you to answer this, was there ever a chance in hell that Team B.O.B. got back together after that decision?
Robert, go ahead.
I was hoping for it, I was hoping that they would see eye to eye and, come back together.
Yeah, yeah.
Things just don't pan out the way that we were hoping they would pan out. you know, Finstock felt, backstabbed, and everybody on the crew was, everybody on the crew kind of empathized with him a little bit, and the hate for JTE kind of flourished throughout the week. So, it would have been nice to see them come back together, but I think the way their egos and pride are set up.
I was actually really surprised. I was pleasantly surprised that, since, the past week has transpired, it seems like Finstock and JTE have sort of come to terms with what actually happened. And as I mentioned last night, JTE is kind of playing the bad boy role. He's embracing it. And I thought it was great. I thought it was funny. I loved what he was doing with it, even though I'm on Finstock's side. I didn't see them get back together. And I actually think I didn't call who it was going to be, but I called that Finstock might be looking elsewhere. So how did you feel about the fact that Makuga comes out, joining Finstock, and it's because sex appeal? What about that team? Are you impressed by that team? Like you are Riley and Clarke?
I'm not. I'm really not. I mean, again, it's a wait and see. I know, again, with Finstock has been putting out there, again, it's a wait and see. I know Makuga is definitely, I mean, he's a step up from what GT, maybe. I mean, I don't know. Again, it's a wait and see. I'm not as, it's again 50-50 with me on what that is. And so just to kind of piggyback on that really quick, guys, guys out there in Schmoeville, you can put this in the comments if you want, but I was curious about what team name was on his other leg that wasn't revealed. So if you guys in the comments section, try and guess what that was, because I've actually I've tweeted back and forth with Makuga about it, and we're going to know soon. So don't keep asking him about it. So just kind of wait and see. But I'm curious to see what you guys might even think. What could be another name that they had, because I know Mega Powers was something Christian kind of went with, and Makuga was like, yeah, I'm not sure I want to do that. So it was a very, very, very funny moment too. But I'm curious as to what Schmoeville thinks what his suggestion would have been.
Yeah, it's perfect. Guys, definitely put all your team name ideas in the comment section below. I'd love to see what you guys are saying. I hate that RB3 probably knows what was on Makuga's leg, but I will not ask. I will wait to find out when Makuga is ready for us to find out what that is.
I have no idea.
Damn.
No, I will say this. Josh Makuga, people undersell him, but a lot of us forget he actually beat Christian Harloff in the first ever Schmoedown.
He did, sure.
And took and faced Mark Riley, and was a formidable opponent to Mark Riley in the Schmoedown championship. So
by no means, I don't think Makuga is a bad partner at all. I think it's just because we just saw Riley and Clarke, and that's a godsend. And then right after that, it's Finstock and Makuga, and they look ridiculous, and it was hilarious. And for whatever reason, I was just not taking that partnership nearly as seriously as I was Clarke and Riley. But I totally understand what you're saying. I mean, at this point, most of everyone involved in the Schmoedown is a contender, with the exception of a couple that we've spoken to on other episodes as well. So we got Clarke going with Riley. We've got Finstock and Makuga. And this was probably the most, I don't know if I want to say produced, but it was not a surprise at all that JTE came up and said that he had someone else on the back burner after just feeling badly about not, him. Well, I don't want to say he was feeling badly, but after saying that him and B.O.B. wouldn't get back together, it was no surprise at all that JTE had brought in no other than Jeff Sneider. I think it was last week when we were talking about the Jeff Sneider episode. I don't hate him like everyone else does. I actually kind of appreciate the douchiness, because I think it's funny when there's a bad guy, just like in wrestling. There's always a bad guy that people love to hate, and I appreciate that about him. But I don't know enough about him, so I can't really be a fan of him. That was the matchup that I'm underwhelmed with, only because I'm not familiar with Sneider. What do you all think?
Yeah, you missed that movie Talk episode where Schneider was on it, and
I went back and watched it.
Oh, you did?
I
Okay.
watched it. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad, because he rubbed me the wrong way. I mean, it's only you only get one chance to make a first impression, and he truly rubbed me the wrong way, and I can definitely see that when several members of Schmoeville was feeling the same thing, and Jeff has again come out and he's embraced the role and has defended himself and come out on several occasions, and he's now teamed up with JTE, who again was the heel this whole time. And Christian put it correctly, man. This is the heel team to get behind. Now going off of what you said for wrestling, a lot of times the heels people like, and I've always rooted for the bad guys all the time. Like growing up, I was always a big fan of the villains because they were more fun to play. And a lot of people, even like in the movies, say that they have more fun playing the villain. I think they need to embrace it even more and make it even worse, and like do stuff to throughout the next few. We've got until August. He can do stuff here and there, and like kind of like what Roka does. Drops little bombs here and there, and just keep it going and build up that hate, and that'll drive the viewers. That'll drive the comments, and obviously do what it needs to do to make it as entertaining as possible. But yeah, we'll see through from now till August. Maybe Jeff will, I'll have a different opinion of him, and have him change my mind a little bit. But that team right now, I can see him as pretty formidable. I mean, JTE did kind of carry the Finstock group along in a lot of the times. He's had 2 different championship matches, and Jeff knocked out Umberto. So right. I feel that they're that one team you're gonna hate because they're so good, like the Patriots. Which is a perfect team name. Perfect team name.
Absolutely. We don't talk a lot about Roka, but let's give Roka a ton of credit because we all talk about Roka and Mance, and that is a great rivalry. But there's people that we talk about, Paul, on the Schmoedown. Sometimes we're just not excited. Like I love the Schmoedown in general, but sometimes depending on who it is or depending on the hype behind it, we're not excited. Like I didn't really care for the Sam Levine and Hal Rudnick fight. I didn't care for Snyder and El Mayembe. It's so much better when people get involved and they start talking shit. And Roka not only has a rivalry with Scott Mance, but he has one with Makuga. And I literally laugh my ass off when Roka is on Movie Talk, and at the end of Movie Talk he just yells Makuga. I laugh my ass off because I know what's coming. And Roka, in my opinion, and I'm not just saying this because he's been on my podcast several times now. I'm saying it's the truth. He makes the Schmoedown that much better. And everyone, please follow in his footsteps. It just makes it a whole lot better. RB3, what do you got?
Well, in concerns with Jeff Snyder, I've actually been a fan of his since, just reading him off his stories off the rack, but watching the show Meet the Movie Press that him and Mark Riley used to do, I feel like when he came on to Collider Movie Talk, he had, a lot of the fans weren't necessarily prepared for his kind of attitude and his charisma and his personality and the way he expresses himself. They weren't as prepared as I was, having seen him. Watch him almost every Friday on Meet the Movie Press. So what Jeff Snyder brings to the table, he's a very knowledgeable reporter. He breaks a lot of stories. He has a lot of insight into the movie industry, but he also studied. Again, he's another one who went to film school, I believe, and he's very knowledgeable. He knows his stuff about movies, classic movies, Oscar movies. He's not. I think he knows a little. He might be pretty good with the comic book movies and the big stuff, but he's more of a broader strokes, and JTE might be able to cover his back when it comes to more of the comic book stuff. But their one Achilles heel as a team, I feel like, will be the Star Wars category.
Sure.
JTE breaks down during the Star Wars, man. I mean, that's the one thing him and Finstock were lacking at, and Jeff Snyder, he's definitely not he's a Star Wars fan, but he's not a huge Star Wars, guy like Mark and Christian are. So if Snyder would have landed on Star Wars movies, it wouldn't have been a knockout, So it's a lot of factors that play into it, but I definitely think Jeff Snyder's a formidable opponent, and I think he could add a lot of personality. He could definitely add. He could definitely do a lot of the trash talk that you guys are looking for too. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Roka's the master, no doubt. But and if you guys have been following Andy Signore on Twitter, he definitely he could throw some trash out there too for Christian. But what I can't wait to see what Schneider and JTE are gonna have together. So, but yeah, the Schmoedown, there's a lot of really interesting matches to look forward to. I know they have a bunch that are airing, in the next few weeks, and a bunch that they are still working on, still putting together, still have in the brain trust. And it's kind of funny because Christian is so invested into all of this stuff, and Mark is as well, and everybody, and you can really feel like the love and passion behind these Schmoedown matches. There's so much energy and so much build up to these events that when they actually happen, they are a lot of fun to watch. So much fun to watch. So
for sure. So Paul, do you think the biggest takeaway from the decision was the Clarke and Riley thing? Like, did the other two matchups impress you compared to that?
The reveal of Jeff Snyder was shocking, but knowing when Riley came out, like that's the force to be reckoned with right there.
Right.
So thinking again, the JTE Snyder pairing, that's dangerous too. And like I said, the Patriots are a perfect name for them because they're knowledgeable, and they people are gonna hate it that they're gonna win because I think I can see them as a formidable team, and between Clarke, Riley versus JT and Snyder, that would be a very interesting matchup to see prior to a championship match.
Absolutely.
But I think if those two go off, I think it's easily Mark Riley and Clarke Wolfe.
Yeah.
That's the team. I mean, honestly, it's like with that and man, I just don't know who can, Christian and Mark maybe, but it's just, that is a dynamite team. That's I thought Team Champ with Dan Murrell, and I thought Team Champ with Dan Murrell and Mark Riley was a strong team. But honestly, they Mark Riley and Clarke Wolfe are like complete complements to each other, So
I guess we'll find out in August, right? That's when the team league starts.
Oh yeah.
It feels so far away. So far away.
That's like the beginning of another school year. That's I don't want to think about August already.
Yeah, that's when Paul's summer break ends. Okay, so do we have anything else about the Schmoes Know show before we move on to our time capsule?
No, we're good.
All right, so RB3, you're putting up all these videos on the Schmoes Know podcast channel. I want to talk about one in particular for the time capsule. We're not going to be talking about a Schmoes Know show this week. Let's talk about grasping at straws. Because I've heard a lot about this since I've been a fan of Collider and Schmoes the past almost a year now, complete year for me, and never really saw it. You put I guess you'd call it a pilot up. Is that what you would call it? It was intended to be a pilot, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So they put that up on the YouTube channel now for everyone to see. If you didn't know, it's in several parts, a few minutes long. It's really, really interesting because I've never seen Christian and Mark act. Like that's the part that I don't get a lot from. I know that they're stand-up comedians, but I don't know a lot about their history in terms of like show business, like what they did before Schmoes while being in Hollywood. And this was great because you see Fat Ellis, and I don't think I've seen Fat Ellis before either. And that was a real treat. But I want you to tell me how it feels going through this library, particularly grasping at straws, what it feels to go through all this, and what you were surprised about sifting through all this this archive here.
Well, we still have a lot of videos to put up, and by the way, if you guys aren't checking out those videos, make sure you guys are watching those. Schmoeville.
Subscribe to that YouTube channel too, because that's the channel where this podcast appears for sure.
Oh yeah, of course. So and but yeah, check out those videos because man, there's some funny stuff. I mean, there's a lot of funny stuff that we're going to be putting up, and but yeah, I mean, grasping at straws. I mean, that is such a that's a great little series of videos that we put up, and it's almost like kind of outrageous how good though how high quality and like well written those little that little, the first kind of pilot episode, I guess, but really the parts, like I feel like it works as a great thing that as is broken into parts because you do get like these little episodic like little adventures. It's like a little series within itself, and and yeah, we don't see a lot of, like I said, we don't see a lot of Christian and Mark acting, but as we're uploading some of these older things, we're going to see a lot more of that. Shorts like Samurai Within or a few other things that they acted in and like put together. But yeah, but grasping at straws, man, I've watched all those little episodes at least like 10 times over. I mean, it's so fun. I don't know. I find it so funny and hilarious. The whole thing in episode 2, where with the Star Trek writer, and it's kind of like a refreshing thing to see something kind of that old, not old, but like kind of that classic, and we kind of see the origins of the Schmoes happen through the show, and we see Christian, we see Mark, we see Ken Knapsack, and we see a lot of really, interesting things happening before the Schmoes were even kind of an invention of what we know today. But
right,
and it kind of prompts, a lot of people. We're working on the scripted show, on a scripted series for the Schmoes right now. And I remember when they announced that a while ago. But I remember when they announced that, people were like, "Well, how's that going to work? What is that? It's not going to be the same energy. It's going to be scripted." Da, da, da. And then, but if you kind of look at Grasping at Straws, you kind of see like a little taste of what kind of scripted comedy could look like in the Schmoes universe in some capacity. So I know Shastra is working on like a script right now for that, for something that's in development right now, and I think there's a lot of potential for a lot of great moments in this particular in this series that they're developing right now. So.
For sure. Seeing Grasping at Straws just made me even more excited for what's to come in this new scripted series. I am all for it. I remember asking Ellis back in January, I was like, why don't these YouTubers in this film review space, all the guys that we follow every week, why don't they create scripted content? I mean, they have the fan power to get behind it for sure, even if they wanted to venture out on crowdfunding. I know a lot of people aren't into that, but they could totally pull it off. And Screen Junkies Plus did it a little bit with that Interns at Field thing that they have going on.
Mm-hmm.
So, is that what it was called, Interns at Field? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, so they started to do it there, but I would really, really want to see these guys create more scripted content. I mean, I thought the pilot was fantastic, and I felt like it was actually something that I might see. It reminded me of seeing the like demo pilot of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, if you've ever watched that. I mean, it felt just like that. So, yeah, I love the Grasping at Straws. I thought it was a great predecessor to what we're going to get with Sasha's scripted series. Paul, do you have anything on Grasping at Straws?
No, every single thing you literally just said, I would be repeating. So, I mean, I saw the first episode, and it obviously sounds like it gets funnier as it goes along. That first pilot kind of hooked me in. We're having a little kid there and talking about the little trials and tribulations they had at the table. They're talking about that, and I have not caught the rest of them, and so I'm going to just probably do that later once I have less to prepare for next week. But definitely we'll get on to watch the rest of that.
For sure.
And
it's great that it's really quick too.
Yeah.
It's great that it's in nuggets. What were you gonna say, RB3?
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, no, it's really great that it's nice and lined up in a playlist and everything. But I just gotta say too, with the scripted series, you gotta understand too, the Schmoes are comedians. They come from stand-up. Mark is still doing stand-up comedy. Christian comes from stand-up comedy background, so there's going to be a lot of those like laugh out loud moments. There's going to be a lot of great comedy bits. There's going to be, and just from talent that they know, around town and things like that. There's going to be a lot of great potential here, and even with the crew that we have, right now, with Copster and Cody with their amateur hours, amateur hour films. I'm kind of doing my own shorts and videos and things like that. By the way, if you're not subscribed, shameless plug here. If you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, but yeah, no, I do my own shorts. I'm in film school right now. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to be like, heavy involved in their stuff. I'm not sure how that's going to work yet, but the talent on the crew, combined with the comedy aspects that Christian and Mark and Ken and Makuga bring, and everybody on the crew really who all add to like the stand-up, who all add a lot of great comedy value, and everything like that, and just the overall planning and organization that we have on the show right now. This is going to be something special, I think. So.
Definitely, for sure.
Yeah. And one little point there, I thought it was really cool when I first when I saw that pilot episode. There was one name in there that kind of even hooked me too, and she's probably right now my favorite female comedian, and that's Eliza Schlesinger. She's on it, and I tell you what, I first saw her on the Tonight Show and immediately laughed my ass off. And when I saw her name on there, I kind of had seen photos on, I don't know if it's Instagram or it was on Twitter, but I saw a couple times where Mark was on a plane and she was like 2 rows behind. I kind of knew that they knew each other, but seeing that she's on the show too, that she kind of still knows them, I would love to see her kind of do a guest spot on either Collider or the Schmoes too, just to see her, because she's hilarious. If you haven't gotten to see anything of her, she's got a lot of stuff on Netflix. So she's probably one of my favorites, if not the favorite female comedian right now out there. So I'd love just to see more of her.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure her and Ellis are actually like extremely close. And Ellis did a guest spot on her podcast too that you could check out, Paul. If you want. Did you know she had a podcast?
I don't. I do now.
Ellis was on at least one episode. I don't know if he's been on it since. But anyway, cool. So yeah, I think that about does it for today's show. Do you guys have anything else before we get to announcements?
Go for it, man.
All right, just one little announcement. So Paul and I love having guests on this show. We originally promised to have a lot of Facebook fans from the group page to come on the show and join us. So far, only one has done it. We've got this email set up, schmoevillepod@gmail.com. You can let me know that you're interested in coming on the show. I've got plenty of you guys already that we're behind on. I apologize. But Paul and I are also working hard to get you guys like the actual Schmoes on the show. Like we had Ace, RB3 today, and we have more in the works moving forward. So I had an idea with Paul, and me and Paul are going to talk more about it this week. I think we've come up with something that will work for you guys. Just in case, I know we're not getting to you right away, but we're going to be working on it. So in the meantime, you can still send me your inquiries to schmoevillepod@gmail.com. I've got it pulled up right now, so I can see all of you guys that have done it so far. Just sit tight. I promise we're going to get to you. But yeah, we've gotten pretty lucky with having the Schmoes on so far. So there's that. We're going to figure out a way to get you guys on the show. With that being said, I'd like to thank RB3 for joining us. It's been a long time that we've been planning this. I think school was in the way, but yeah, It's summertime, buddy. Thanks
Yeah.
so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me. Yeah, like you guys said, I was supposed to be on a few weeks ago. I'm sorry about that. I had Friday class in the mornings that kind of conflicted with the schedule. But now during the summer and anytime you guys want me, my line is always open, and I'm very happy to be here and talking with you guys, Schmoeville.
I know I like it, so I guarantee the fans love it too. We love to hear the behind-the-scenes sort of perspective and all the stuff that we normally talk about here on the Schmoeville podcast. Paul, what do you got for me? Anything to plug?
Yeah, you know what? There's one thing that I did not cover. Ladies and gentlemen out there in Schmoeville, this is our 10th podcast.
Uh-oh.
This is number 10. We are in double digits, baby. So kudos to everybody involved, everybody that's listened, everybody that's commented. It wouldn't have happened without you guys, without the 11,000 Schmoevillians out there. And again, I think you actually did make a little error there, Snelling. There's been 2. We've had Xander and Leanne, so you said there was 1. But that's okay.
I meant fans. I was talking about Luke.
Well, Luke, that's true. Okay.
I put the admins on a higher tier. No offense, fans, but
regardless of that,
they're responsible for the fan
everybody, admins, fans, schmoes, everybody involved. This couldn't have happened without you guys. I mean, for the love of the schmoes, that's why we're here. We're here for you guys, and that's pretty much all I got for the remainder of this little podcast today.
Actually, one more thing. We talked about our podcast. This is on iTunes, so you're probably listening to this on YouTube. That's where the majority of the people listen to our show, and that's perfectly fine. But I would ask all of you to pick up your iPhones and just give us a rating and a review on iTunes to bump up those plays too. Because, yeah, I pay for hosting, and it would be great if more of you guys listened over there. And it'll also help other people find the show as well, if they are familiar with the show. So with that being said, please give us a rating and review on iTunes. There you go. That's it for me. RB3, throw out your YouTube channel, by the way. What's the name of that?
I believe my YouTube channel is just my name, Robert Butler.
There you go.
You could, if you follow me on Twitter, at RB3 Schmoes, my YouTube links are there, and same with Instagram, same with Facebook, and please check out some of the videos that I've done recently. I haven't really added anything within the last couple of months, but there's going to be some exciting things happening. I'm working on a music video right now, and there's some good stuff that's going to be maybe not. There's going to be on my channel, so look out for that, and follow me on social media, at RB3 Schmoes on Twitter, Rob the Movie Guy on Instagram, like I said, there's going to be some good stuff that you're going to see coming from my end, hopefully, and please, check out. So please, or if you add me as a friend on Facebook, I share a lot of things there, Robert Butler III, and this is not necessarily a plug for me, but what site has been like really fun to just kind of crawl through. I think one of the admins at Schmoeville, Michael K.
Right.
He does the gamers, the Geeks and Gamers website, geeksandgamers.com. That's a really great website for a lot of the fans out there, for fans of movies, fans of video games, fans of music, fans of everything. So check that out too. It's not a plug for me, but I really like their website, and they don't have nearly as many followers as they should. So.
And you can't help yourself. You're just that nice of a guy. You're just throwing out at other people's plugs.
Yeah, other people's plugs just have nothing to do with me. But so I tell you,
you're a sweet guy.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Paul, where can the people find you on Twitter?
Well, if I'm not behind my computer trying to prepare for this second interview that I'm so excited about, I will be on Twitter at the Mr. Wolf. That's TheMrWuLFF, and obviously you can catch me on Facebook on the the Schmoeville fan site. I did. So that's it. That's all. You can find me there.
You can find me on the Film Beef podcast. We've got a review of X-Men Apocalypse coming later this weekend. I think we've got some big guests that everyone in Schmoeville might be familiar with, but I'm going to keep that a secret because I'm not sure that it's going to happen. So there's that. We also recap Game of Thrones and Preacher, so definitely just come by the Film Beef podcast. You got all that good stuff, and the Film Beef YouTube channel, and you can follow me on Twitter at FilmBeefSnell. We'll be here next week. See you, Schmoeville.
Peace out, Mother Fs.